David Smoke with Baylor women's basketball coach Nicki Collen, and it's been a while for you and I to talk, and I'm glad to have a chance to visit with you. And I get you; you guys are red hot. Five, I think, in a row. You're at the top, tied at the top of the lead in the Big 12. Why is your team, Nicki, playing as well as it is right now?
Yeah, I think it's our balance. I think a lot of it is just we've got a lot of people stepping up. I think this team has figured out how they can score. We're being more efficient. We're making threes. So we're kind of spreading the wealth. But, we're protecting Nettie. So now we have interior presence in Vonleh, but we're really balancing that. It's good to see Bella start to see the ball go in from three. So I think a lot of it is our balance, and just our balanced depth and the fact that we've got a veteran group.
And so when you're a coach and you watch, and of course everybody goes through attrition with injuries, and sometimes the mixing and matching the lineup and rotation. But when you see it start to come together, and others work to do, but what's it like for you to see this happening right now?
Well, honestly, I think that the way we play, the way I teach, we tend to always be better in February and March than we are at the beginning of the season. We run complex stuff, and there are times when it takes a while for it to come together. And I think when you have the pieces that we have, when you add a center that needs touches in the low post after you've had 2 years where you really didn't play through a post player. It takes time to figure it all out for an Aaliyah Matharu to like get in the mix and really understand her place. But it does feel good. I mean, it's what you're always working for. Teams that peak too early, don't that's not what we want. As good as we were, and maybe we did peak a little bit too early last year, going on the road and winning at Texas and starting 14-0. But I also think that team regrouped and was playing well in February and March when it counted. And so I think that's what you're always working for as a coach. You use the first few months to figure out, what are we really good at? You think you're going to be good at certain things, but it takes time. It takes time even in conference play when you start to play really good teams all the time to figure out, how are we going to be successful night in and night out at both ends of the floor? Like, what are we going to hang our hat on defensively? And what's going to stand out offensively for us? And so I think that's the best part, is you start to see it come together with, okay, this is how we score. This is how we can score against zone. This is how we score against man. But I think, it's taken time to get there.
What is it like? I mean, you mentioned the interior game, because of what Vonleh brings to the table. Had a massive game against West Virginia, and just having that presence inside with everybody else that people know a little bit more about them, but what she's doing for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a little up and down. I think that, and a lot of that is on her, figuring out, how to dominate all the time. Like, dominating all the time is a mindset, and it's not so much a skill thing. Erinette has the skill set to dominate against anyone on every possession, but learning to score when she's facing taller people, learning to play out of double teams. The beauty of our team is she doesn't get doubled very often, because who are you going to leave? You're going to give Sarah three. Bugs is going to cut to the rim, leads the Big 12 in offensive rebounding. Jade is shooting it well from three this year. You bring in Yaya and Aaliyah. I think right now Yaya is like going to be unanimous sixth player of the year, because of how consistent she's been for us this year. So I think for her, it's just wanting the ball, really demanding the ball all the time. The way West Virginia played, they give you a lot of space to work. And so we took advantage of that matchup all night long, no matter who they had on her or how they shifted their zone. But it's a nice thing to be able to say, okay, we're facing a team with a lot of athletic guards, and we can just throw the ball in the low post and let her go one-on-one. And then there's other games where we have more advantage on the perimeter, but it's about having the ability to have that advantage consistently. That's been really good for this program.
What you mentioned, Yaya as the sixth man of the year when all that comes out, but you also, Sarah is like, I wanted to say this, and I said this would not be fair. Like, she's Methuselah for you guys. She's been around forever, and she's the veteran. And of course, what you guys have going with Walker, and it's the way you responded to the injury earlier that could have been devastating, how much better are you than you thought you could be at this time, considering?
Yeah, I think losing Jana was a really big blow. A bigger blow than the national media is going to understand, because no one was in our gym in September and October. And the way she was playing, leading up to her injury, like she was going to get starter type minutes off the bench. Sometimes, we're never in control. We know that. But being able to pick up Aaliyah Matharu when we did, and all these questions about when is it going to happen? When is she? It's not easy to walk into a program in December, as good as she is, and figure out where your place is. And I think her role keeps growing. She's starting to figure out, how to play within our system. I think West Virginia, for both her and Yaya, was really the exception rather than the norm. That was a game that, for me as a coach, I stuck with those starters through thick and thin because of the press and the pressure and the moment. But I think this team has thrived off of seeing Aaliyah be someone that can go make shots, of Yaya making shots, of like whoever's turn it is when Sarah's struggling. I mean, Sarah started the game at West Virginia with a turnover, a missed defensive assignment. And, we can pull her in those moments, and we can go to our bench and let her reset, and get into her if we need to, and then put her back in. And so that's been a luxury, that no one, we don't have to go and keep playing to someone who's struggling. And so I think this team, we got a lot of basketball in front of us. So when we look at how we have to finish, and our goal being to win a conference championship, but we got to go through the top of the league to do it, and so, we're kind of past that part of our schedule, where we're probably going to win games by 30. And so right now it's about, are we doing a good job in preparation? Is our scouting report D good? Do we really know our personnel? Because when you play the Kansas States, and we're going to have to play TCU again, and Colorado has played well. They had a couple injuries this week that have, put them, in a little bit of a hole. But it's not going to get easier, on this way to trying to win this conference championship.
Bigger goals, obviously, but right now with a three-way tie at 11-2, did you? I know you expect you and your team to be good, but are they? Well, you're peaking at the right time, as you mentioned, but 11-2, you're tied at the top. And as you mentioned, some of the games you have, plus K-State, TCU later on, you're pretty good position, right? With the way you're playing and the health and the momentum.
Yeah, we're in a good position. There's no question. But I also think, I've said it before, when you look at a three-way tie and then two teams, one game out of first, and our losses being to TCU and Oklahoma State, we control our destiny more with TCU than obviously Oklahoma State. But you've got a lot of teams that are within a game of being in the position that they want to be. So do I feel good about being in first today? Yes. Did I think we could be in first today going into this season? Yes. Certainly, looking at TCU's roster, looking at the veteran K-State roster and the teams that were picked, to be right there. I mean, it was, K-State was picked to win it. Iowa State was picked second. So, and we still have to play Iowa State. And so because of that, I like the position we're in. I just know that, 2 wins and you can drop from, first to seventh right now.
Yep.
And so there's just a lot is going to happen in these last 3 weeks of the regular season. So not taking anything for granted. Texas Tech was tied with TCU at TCU, a week ago. They were in a close matchup with K-State for a half. They've struggled to finish, and their record indicates that. But their Utah game, was a 1-possession game under a minute. And so, you just really can't take any games for granted.
What are your thoughts? The Title IX ruling that came down earlier this week that does not apply to athlete pay with the settlement, and we understand Title IX, 50 years and all of that. But when that decision came down from the Trump administration about Title IX is not something that should affect how much athletes get paid or what genders, male or women's athletes get paid. What was your reaction to that?
Um, Very unsurprised by it. I think that's what we expected. Um, I understand there's, I'm always in that delicate balance of what's best for our team, understanding the landscape of college athletics, understanding the purpose. The original purpose of Title IX was opportunity. Sometimes we get confused equality and fair. What's equal, what's fair. And I think we've lived in this space of, like if the men have 30,000 square feet, then we have to have 30,000 square feet, of office space, things like that. But I wasn't surprised, maybe a little disappointed. But I also understand the business implication. I understand the purpose of rev share. And if you're actually giving money, to quote the student athletes that are making money for the university, for the athletic department. But I just think we're in this precarious time. And if rev share resets the market, I can understand it. I just think coaches, what coaches are struggling with right now is like, we're playing a game we don't understand. And a game that keeps changing with every antitrust lawsuit, and we don't know what's next. And so I think that is the scariest part about it. 6 months ago, I thought we had this figured out. Then rev share comes in, and then, there just seems to always be something down the pipe. And, is this sustainable? Is this model sustainable? Can we live in this space? I just know for Baylor women's basketball, I want us to be able to compete. I want us to be able to compete with everyone in this country, because I think Mac has supported us that way. Linda has supported us that way. And so from that perspective, how is all this going to change? And I think that's what we're still trying to figure out.
Men and women's sports, that's another decision that's come down recently. And, I have my opinion. What is yours?
Yeah, I don't. I think from a political landscape, I usually sit this one out.
Right.
I think it's, I think there are a lot of sides to this part of it, and I just know that, it's a unique time in our country. I think sometimes we have these hot button topics. But in this one, I feel like I need to understand it better to really say. I think I want fairness in sport. I want women to have opportunity. What that definition is, I tend to stay in my lane on that one.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying. It's that because there's always blowback, no matter which, even if you truly, this is what you believe, and you would never say anything if you didn't, but there's blowback. There's this immediate, like, oh my God. And I, for one, don't think men should participate in women's sports, and I'm on record as saying that, but I just was curious about that, because that's, and you're right. It's such, like, seemed like some of these things should be fundamental, but they're also, it's like they're fragile. It's like, I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, and I don't think that like one size fits all. And I don't think every situation is the same. And, and so like, I want there to be fairness in sport. I also have a sensitivity, to the underrepresented communities. And so, I just, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Like, that's my personality. That's my, I don't feel like necessarily like there's one answer is always the right answer. And I just don't think it's as simple as, men and women's sports. I don't know that it's that simple, or that we can always boil it down to that. But I definitely think it's a sensitive topic.
Yep. One more thing. You opened up the show. You were drinking a double espresso. Is that right?
Yeah.
And now, how many will you have today? Is that one or five or one of five?
Honestly, like it's a little bit of, I'm trying to cut back. I'm trying, but usually come practice time, I'll head to the Starbucks machine, and get it tall. So no, I'm not now. I will say this: last night I had, a recruiting call and then wanting to break Texas Tech down. So, I have an at-home espresso machine. So I had one last night just to kind of keep me in that mode of rolling through. So, it might be on average of 5 cups a day. I don't know. I'd like to say sometimes it's only 3, but I know that, like, if it's an Americano, but it's a double, and then before you know it, I don't know what it all adds up to. It's just at this time of year,
Yep.
where coaches are on fumes, like it's like we're adrenaline junkies anyway, so that's normal. But there's no question that this time of year, when you're in this grind, like we just came out of like 4 games in 8 days, and 2 of those on the road, and short turnaround, and so yesterday was our first day off in a really long time. So it became the hair, nail, and then prepare day.
Well, and you got 2 road games coming up back to back, Texas Tech and Lubbock, and then Colorado as well, and a huge win against West Virginia, which obviously was a monstrous win for you, top 25 win too. Yeah, I can't imagine the fumes of travel and all the things that you juggle, plus the fact you got a basketball team. Nicki, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Have a great day and good luck this week in Lubbock.
Thank you.
Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach, with me on 365 Sports.